welcome back to Rusty Hammer Forge here in Walla Walla. Today we're working on some Tusk tongs, or knife tongs, as a lot of people refer to them as. What they are is they're a pair of tongs that allow you to hold on to a knife blink in a way that feels like you're holding onto it with your hand. So you have the utmost dexterity when you're working with your knife blink. And all of us that know that forge blades know that dexterity is what makes it easier to get certain angles when you're forging. And having a pair of tongs or a tool that allows you to have that dexterity and keep the heat away from your hands is highly important in the forging process. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take our blanks that we cut out in the last, we talked about in the last video, and we're going to go over to the anvil and we're going to show you how we're going to forge this down. Alright, without going too much into the anatomy of an anvil, you're going to hear me talk about the table, the step, and the cutting table. This is your working surface for your anvil. This is your step, and this is for doing all your cutting and everything on, for your chisel work and everything, so that you don't really mar the surface of your anvil. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our blank here, tong blank, and making sure that you have an opposite angle. You don't want the angle on the same side. Now there are certain tongs that do that. You have a 90 here and then a 90 here, but you want to make sure that that 90 is on this bottom side opposite the other 90. And so what you're going to do, and you know you want your bit to be 2 inches, so you're going to lay that on there hot, you're going to roll it up, and you're going to hammer this down until you have a piece that fits on your anvil like this, so that your bit is sitting flush on your table and your boss is now sitting flush on your cutting table with this nice step down. Now it just so happens that my step down, and a lot of step downs, are 3/8 of an inch tall on the anvils that on, like this is a 178 pound anvil, and I have a 100-pound anvil, and they have pretty much the same step down of about right around 3/8. And you're going to find that a lot in some anvils that that really close in dimensions when it comes to working surface. And when you get into the bigger anvils, you're going to have a much larger step down, and you can create different things out here using your hardy hole, which is right over here off camera, to make a step down on top of your table. So if you want that 3/8, you can run a bar over here that's 3/8 of an inch thick to use that as your gauge. You're really just using this step down as a gauge to get your angles good, so that this angle coming into your reins is relatively close to the same angle going into your bit off your boss. That just makes symmetrically a whole lot easier to fit these together in the end. So let's go back over to our workbench and talk about what we're going to do next. All right, now using the process that we talked about just a second ago at the anvil, what we're going to do is we're going to go light the forge, and we're going to take and upset everything down into the correct plane, and then we'll see you back at the workbench. Alright, now that we have our bit drawn out and using the technique of hanging it over our step, and then upsetting it down into our cutting table, we are going to soften our corners on both of our pieces. We're going to take it from this 90 and have it flow from your brain over the top of the boss into the bit, and from the bit over the boss into the rein. It's going to be a nice smooth transition in there. And how you're going to do that is you're going to take and heat your piece up, and you're going to upset with your hammer back into here. Now the best hammer to use for this is a ball peen hammer, so that you can use the ball peen to upset and create that nice smooth angle in there, and then take the flat on the flat and hammer all the flare out, or the the expansion as you upset that down. It's going to get thicker this way, and you want to take it back down to 3/8, and you just repeat that on both pieces. Alright, so what you're going to do here, when we're upsetting our angles here, you're going to come in with a ball peen, half ball, whatever it is, and you're going to come in to it at an angle like that. You're going to beat that down, and then you're going to come back on the other side, and you're going to beat that down right there. Then you're going to come back to the flats, and we're going to be going and flattening it back to 3/8 on the edge, in our contours, this way, back to the flats. Alright, so we just off the forge. Shut the forge off. We've really softened this boss. We've really taken and softened the boss. Those hard angles on the boss. And we're going to continue in the next part of this series. In part 3, we're going to continue to work these into more of a uniform. We want to push that up so we get this nice flare coming up in this uphill flare, and the same thing here in this uphill, or that'd be more of a downhill flare, depending on which top and bottom you're going with. And we're also going to start thinning this, lengthening this out, and tapering it down, because I don't mind it being thick right around in here, and you kind of want a thick boss too. So we're not going to really screw with this too much, but we're going to start feathering this down into our reins and really forming that boss to make them nice and equal. So when we go to center punch this, we're going to get an equal hole on each boss. And then we're going to feather this down. We're going to start contouring our bit down to where it gets thinner out here, so we can put our bends and our flop over the top. So until next time, folks, we'll see you in the next one. See you later.